1992, Los Santos shimmered under the unforgiving Californian sun. Carl C.J. Johnson stepped off the bus, 5 years of self-imposed exile clinging to him like a shroud. Liberty City had offered him an escape, but the news of his mother's murder tore through his fabricated peace. Los Santos bled into his present, pulling him back into the life he'd tried so hard to outrun. The air hung thick with smog and the promise of violence. CJ walked through the familiar streets of Ganton, each step a solemn beat in the dirge of his homecoming. Memories flickered. Youthful laughter, the sting of spray paint, his mother's warm smile. Now replaced by the stark reality of her absence. The Grove Street families, once a brotherhood, were a fractured memory. His brother Sweet clung to the remnants of their former glory, a general commanding a dwindling battalion. As CJ navigated the labyrinthine streets of his old turf, a Crown Victoria pulled up alongside. Its occupants, crash officers Tenpenny and Pulaski, embodied the city's corruption. They saw CJ not as a grieving son, but as a pawn to manipulate, an instrument to further their own twisted agenda. They framed him for the murder of a fellow officer, a grim welcome back present. CJ found himself at a crossroads, the weight of his past bearing down on him. The grip of Crash tightened around CJ, forcing him to play their game. He was their errand boy, carrying out their dirty work under the constant threat of imprisonment. But with every task, every interaction, CJ was learning the lay of the land. He was reconnecting with old allies like Big Smoke and Ryder, their camaraderie a beacon in the encroaching darkness. He started small, reclaiming turf for the Grove Street families, brick by bloody brick. The streets became his battleground. The rumble of lowriders, the soundtrack to his resurgence. He honed his skills, transforming from a rusty cog in the machine to a weapon forged in the fires of loyalty and vengeance. Word spread through the grapevine. CJ was back, and he wasn't playing by anyone's rules but his own. He became a symbol of hope in a community drowning in despair. People saw him standing up to Crash, to the Ballas, to anyone who dared to threaten the fragile peace he was desperately trying to build. But Los Santos was a fickle mistress. The line between friend and foe blurred, and CJ realized that survival in Los Santos meant trusting no one. CJ, we can reclaim our former territory. We can be a force to be reckoned with again. Rebuilding the Grove Street families was like trying to piece together a shattered mirror. Each shard reflected a different aspect of their past, a reminder of their former glory and the events that led to their downfall. CJ threw himself into the task, driven by the memory of his mother and the hope of redemption for himself and his crew. His brother, Sweet, remained steadfast in his belief that they could reclaim their former territory. But CJ saw the cracks in Sweet's resolve. He saw the doubt that flickered in his eyes, the exhaustion that etched lines into his face.
Yo, CJ, it's good to have you back, man. Things ain't been the same without you.
The reunion with Ryder and Big Smoke was bittersweet. The camaraderie was still there, the jokes shared like currency between old friends. But something had changed. The fight for territory raged on, a brutal ballet of bullets and bloodshed. CJ proved himself a capable leader, his tactical mind and unwavering determination earning him the respect of the Grove Street families. He orchestrated daring raids on enemy turf, reclaiming what was once theirs and expanding their influence further than ever before. He formed alliances with other gangs, recognizing that unity was their only hope against the overwhelming odds stacked against them. He negotiated truces, brokered deals, and built a network of loyalty and respect that extended far beyond the confines of Grove Street. But with each victory, CJ's suspicions grew. He noticed discrepancies, inconsistencies in Ryder and Big Smoke's stories. Their alibis were flimsy, their explanations riddled with holes. The more he observed, the more convinced he became that they were playing him for a fool. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. Betrayal cut deep, a wound that festered in CJ's soul. The revelation of Ryder and Big Smoke's treachery shattered his world, leaving him reeling from the shock. He had poured his heart and soul into rebuilding the Grove Street families, only to discover that he had been building on a foundation of lies and deceit. The weight of their betrayal was almost too much to bear.
CJ, man, you gotta be wrong about this. Ryder and Smoke, they wouldn't do us like that.
He had looked death in the eye countless times on the streets of Los Santos, but nothing could have prepared him for the pain of being stabbed in the back by the people he considered brothers. Driven by a potent cocktail of rage and heartbreak, CJ swore revenge. He would make them pay for what they had done, for the pain they had inflicted upon him and his family.
I don't know, CJ. It's hard to believe. I just can't see it, man.
But first, he needed to get his brother to safety. Sweet, blinded by his own loyalty, refused to believe CJ's accusations. He couldn't fathom the thought that his closest friends, his brothers in arms, could be capable of such treachery.
Look, I ain't going nowhere. You gotta show me proof, CJ. I need to see it with my own eyes.
With Sweet safe, CJ could focus on his vendetta. The sprawling concrete jungle of Los Santos no longer felt like home. It had become a hunting ground, a constant reminder of the betrayal he had suffered. CJ needed to get out, to regroup and gather his strength. He set his sights on San Fierro, a city shrouded in fog and mystery.
San Fierro welcomed CJ with open arms, or at least with less animosity than he had grown accustomed to. He quickly established himself as a force to be reckoned with, infiltrating the city's criminal underworld and forging alliances with powerful figures. He met Wu Zimu, the enigmatic leader of the Triads, a man who spoke in riddles but whose loyalty, once earned, was unwavering.
He crossed paths with the Truth, a conspiracy theorist with a penchant for hallucinogenic drugs and an uncanny knack for evading trouble. Under their guidance, CJ learned the art of subterfuge, of playing the long game. He infiltrated a rival gang, sowing seeds of discord and turning their power against them. The glitz and glamour of Las Venturas beckoned. A city built on luck and excess, it was a stark contrast to the gritty streets of Los Santos. But beneath the neon lights and the clanging slot machines, CJ sensed a darkness lurking, a network of corruption that stretched far beyond the roulette tables. He discovered that Big Smoke's drug empire had spread its tentacles to Las Venturas, corrupting officials and turning the city into a haven for his illicit activities. CJ, along with his new allies, launched a series of daring raids, disrupting Big Smoke's operations and crippling his supply lines. He exposed corrupt officials, turned rivals against each other, and sowed chaos in the once orderly world of Las Venturas' criminal underworld. But his vendetta came at a cost. The final confrontation was inevitable. CJ had systematically dismantled Big Smoke's empire piece by piece. He had exposed Crash-esque corruption, turning public opinion against them. Now only one loose end remained. Officer Frank Tenpenny.
Tenpenny, once a symbol of authority, had become a desperate man, his empire crumbling around him. He had underestimated CJ, dismissing him as just another gangbanger. But CJ had proven to be his undoing, a force of nature that could not be controlled.
The streets of Los Santos became a battleground once more, but this time, the stakes were higher than ever before. CJ, backed by his loyal crew, waged war against Tenpenny and the remnants of his corrupt police force. In a climactic showdown that shook the city to its core, CJ confronted Tenpenny. The dust settled, leaving behind a city scarred but not broken. The Grove Street families, once a symbol of gang violence, had emerged as unlikely heroes. They had stood up to corruption, to oppression, to those who sought to exploit and destroy their community.
CJ, his vendetta complete, finally found peace. He had avenged his mother's death, brought his brother home, and reclaimed the streets of Los Santos.
He looked around at the faces of the people he had fought for, the people who had stood by him through thick and thin, and he knew that his sacrifices had been worth it. The Grove Street families were more than just a gang. They were a family, bound together by loyalty, respect, and an unwavering belief in each other. As the sun set on Los Santos, casting long shadows across the city, CJ felt a sense of closure. He was a survivor, a leader, a legend.